Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today I'm going to be doing the cancel culture tag. This tag was created by Nell and Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and I have been tagged by Ange from Angie's Book Chatter. So I'm going to tag 3 people. Apologies if they have already been tagged and I have missed it, but I'm doing it anyway. So I'd like to tag Kit from Kit's World because I think that he'll have really interesting and unique opinions on this. I would like to tag Say Kevy. I think she probably has already been tagged, but I'd like to see her views and her opinions on this as well. And then I'd like to tag Jess the Book Freak. So, I mean, I think it will be the same for me as it is for everybody. I guess it's when you are calling someone out for their behaviours or their comments and they are being held accountable for that. And then cancel culture is slightly different when it goes to the more extreme and you're either choosing not to read or purchase or follow that person anymore or their works as well. And that would be when I would say that they had been cancelled. So I think it is both. I think that it's very positive in the sense that if you have a platform, you need to be more mindful of how you use that platform, and I think that that can only ever be positive. And I think that it's really good that as a community we are comfortable enough and open enough to hold people to account and call people out on their comments or their views if it's something that we disagree with. So I think that that is really positive. And I think as well that especially for bigger authors that they really need to think about their audience and that their audience is perhaps a lot more diverse these days and a lot more socially minded than maybe what it has been in the past. And I think that that's something that they need to also take into account when they are deciding to enter the publishing world, whether it is, you know, getting somebody else to proofread your work to make sure that there is nothing in it that could be offending people, whether it is just, you know, thinking about what it is that you're tweeting before you hit that like or retweet button. And I think that that is very positive, and I think that it's good as a community we sort of all stand together as well. If there is something that we are like that is completely unacceptable, then we'll stick together and, you know, stand by the group that is perhaps being discriminated against as opposed to standing by the author. The only thing is I think that there needs to be a clearer distinction between call-out culture and cancel culture, because I think that we could find ourselves in the position where people are scared to make mistakes, and I think that as humans, of course, we make mistakes, and I think that there needs to be almost a clearer definition between what is a cancelable offence and what is just calling somebody out, because I think that they often get really confused, and for me, certainly in my head, it's two totally separate things. So, like, did J.K. Rowling deserve to be cancelled? Yes. If someone was to accidentally misgender someone, do they deserve to be cancelled? No. They should be called out on it, and then if they don't correct that behaviour and they continually misgender them, then absolutely they should be cancelled. But they should be allowed to make that initial mistake, because it might be that they just don't know, and then, you know, they're called out, they take the time to educate themselves, and they come back, they apologise, and the mistake is rectified. And I think that that needs to be a wider distinction, because there's so many cases where people are being cancelled for things that I think that they should have just been called out for, in my opinion. And I think as well, like, we don't want to get ourselves into a position where people are scared to make a mistake, or people don't want to, you know, maybe chime in on some really important conversations because they then don't want to say the same thing, or say the wrong thing rather. So then we're just eliminating people's voices because they don't want to offend, and I don't think that we should ever be in that position. However, I do think that it's someone's responsibility to educate themselves before they are making comments. However, like, it's all part of it, you know, like, in order to have a progressive society, we need to progress, and to do that we need to make mistakes and educate ourselves. And I think as well, like, apologies just become a bit meaningless sometimes if we're constantly cancelling people, because then it's like, right, well, are you really apologising because you have noted what you've done wrong and learned from it, like, and are genuinely sorry, or are you apologising so that we'll buy your books again? So I think that that's why there needs to be a bigger distinction between cancel culture and call out culture, so that apologies don't become meaningless, and so that people are allowed to make mistakes and, you know, throw their hat into the ring on a conversation that's happening, regardless of the subject matter, and not be too scared about saying the wrong thing. I think that we should be open enough to allow people to make mistakes and give them the grace to rectify that before we are, like, cancelled. But again, like, there needs to be some sort of a distinction. Quite a few different reasons. So I would boycott an author if they were to be homophobic, transphobic, racist. You know, I think that if they have maybe made a comment once on Twitter a number of years ago and they have came out and said, look, this was the script at the time, like, I am really embarrassed by the comments, I'm sorry for it, I'd maybe give them a go. Like I was saying, you know, there needs to be a distinction between call out culture and cancel culture. But they would probably be the three big ones. And then more recently as well, I feel like I have been boycotting people who maybe haven't been taking the coronavirus restrictions very seriously. So Neil Gaiman, we're talking to you. So that's something I would probably boycott an author for as well. Anything, you know, misogynistic as well. Thanks. I would boycott an author for being a misogynist as well. Sometimes it depends on the author as well, but if I know that they make contributions to a particular political party, or they have made contributions to a particular political party in the past, I would be less inclined to give that author my money, because I wouldn't then want to by proxy be funding said political party. So I would perhaps boycott that author as well. However, I completely and utterly support, you know, authors coming out and speaking about politics. I think that that's brilliant, and it's obviously their money, they can do with it as they choose. I just wouldn't want to be funding that said political party. So I would probably boycott for that reason as well. Yes, I think that boycott would be all three for me. So I think it would depend on the offence. Like I've been saying, there needs to be a difference between cancel culture and call out culture. So if I'm calling someone out, then I maybe wouldn't purchase their books, and I probably wouldn't speak about them on the channel. But if, you know, they were to have genuinely learned from their mistakes, they were to apologise, then it doesn't mean that I wouldn't perhaps buy their books in the future and give them another chance. If it's someone that I would deem to be cancelled, then yeah, I probably wouldn't buy any more of their books, and I probably wouldn't read them in the future. I think that in terms of promoting them, I think that I wouldn't promote them in a positive way, but I'd certainly still talk about them on the channel perhaps if it was to have come up, and say, you know, like, this is why I wouldn't be reading this person, because it could be that someone else doesn't know maybe that something has happened with that author. I mean, cancel culture and call out culture is so rife these days that it's sort of hard to keep up sometimes. So I think that it wouldn't be positive promotion, but I wouldn't not talk about them on the channel if the situation or topic was to come up. Obviously J.K. Rowling, I've spoke about it before, like, I am a humongous Harry Potter fan. me and my gran read all the Harry Potter books together when I was young, and we went to see every single film together. We actually went to Florida to go to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter for the final film coming out, and we bought like really early morning passes. We got to be there from like 4 o'clock in the morning so that we could get onto all the rides. We could have our breakfast at Hogsmeade before the park opened to the general population, and then like, you know, we got to do like butterbeer in the afternoon, and then we got to go into the cinema at Universal Studios to watch the last film, and that was just fantastic. And it's something that me and my gran, you know, we've bonded over so many books and so many TV shows, but Harry Potter was always just something so magical, especially because I was a lot younger when they came out. And they always came out round about Christmas time, and she'd always buy me, you know, Harry Potter themed Christmas gifts and stuff. So a huge Harry Potter fan, something that me and Simon bonded over when we first started dating. You know, we had parts of our wedding that was Harry Potter themed, so it will always hold a really special place in my heart. However, that doesn't mean that J.K. Rowling also holds a special place in my heart. I struggle really to separate an author from their work, but I almost need to with Harry Potter, because like it has been such a huge part of my life that it would be really difficult to just not like it anymore, because I love the characters, I love the story, and I love the world, but I don't love her and I don't love her opinions. So I wouldn't read another book. Even if she was to come out with another book in the Harry Potter world, I wouldn't pick it up and I wouldn't read it. I almost sort of just have to have the Harry Potter series stand on its own. You know, and I wouldn't read any additions or any add-ons or anything like that. I wouldn't be interested in her Robert Galbraith books anyway, so that's something that I definitely will never pick up and read. But I definitely boycott her. I probably wouldn't ever buy or read another book by Neil Gaiman, just because I thought that the way he flouted the coronavirus restrictions was absolutely ridiculous. I understand that he had certain personal circumstances going on, but so did everybody, and you know, we had to follow the rules. And I actually, when we were unpacking all of the paperbacks, I actually unhauled my copy of American Gods, because I'm never going to pick it up, I'm never going to read another Neil Gaiman book. I just thought his behaviour was really childish and ridiculous. So yeah, that's a no from me. There is nobody else really that is sticking out in my mind, to be honest, that I actively boycott at the moment. I think anybody else, but I am sure that there are people, if I was to give it a wee bit more thought, that I'd be like, I'm not picking up their books. So I really believe in positive consumerism. I think that with there being so much consumerism in our current world, we have a real force for good in choosing who and when and where we decide to spend our money. And I think that as a society, if we are choosing to cancel someone and boycott someone, and we're sort of all on board with it, then we have an opportunity to make a real impact in that person's sales and that person's platform. So yeah, I think that positive consumerism, absolutely brilliant. And if I am boycotting an author, then I definitely wouldn't purchase their books, new, used, charity shops, anything. I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't go there. And I think that that can be positive. But again, like, there's a slight difference in my mind between whether I'm cancelling someone and boycotting them, or whether I am like calling them out. Again though, I probably wouldn't buy a book by someone that I have called out, because I've obviously seen a reason to call them out. But if they were to come and apologise and things like that, then potentially I would go back and buy their books. Obviously depending on the circumstance, because there are like so many situations where, like, if I am calling out someone's behaviour, then it's probably bad enough for me that I'd be like, right, well, something really drastic would need to happen here before I would, you know, spend my money with that person. But it's a really interesting topic. I advocate positive consumerism in all areas in my life, not just books buying, but like depending on clothes suppliers and where I'll buy my clothes from. You know, if a clothes store has links to, you know, fast fashion, it's really having a negative impact in the environment. If they are, you know, linked to using sweatshops and things like that, I won't buy my clothes from there. Same with like makeup and skincare. I obviously only use cruelty free brands, and I wouldn't buy a brand that wasn't cruelty free. And again, like, I would need to know that they were a reputable brand, that the brand owners are, you know, no using their platform and no using it for promoting anything bad, like the Too Faced scandal that has just happened. Everywhere in my life, you know, I try to really practice positive consumerism, because I just think that it is so important. I think that as a society, if we are, you know, going down the cancel culture, call out culture route, then we all need to be held account by the same standards. I don't think that it would be any different if I was to be sitting here making really transphobic comments to you guys, and J.K. Rowling obviously making really transphobic comments on her Twitter. I think that we both have an audience. They obviously differ very much in size, but we both have an audience, and we would both be using the platform that we've created for ourselves to talk to that audience about these opinions, thoughts, feelings that obviously are wrong. So I think that everybody should be held to the same standard. I don't think that one person should be held to a higher standard than the other based on audience size or platform or income. I get that it might be difficult for a smaller booktuber to feel like they could cancel a big author. They might feel like they are going to lose, you know, perhaps subscribers, and they'll get dislikes, they'll maybe lose views, and people maybe won't promote their channel, they won't watch them. But then it just comes down to a line of integrity for me. Like, I would much rather be myself and know that I'm doing the right things, that I am holding the views and opinions that are right for me, and that I'm doing the right thing on my channel, and maybe lose a couple of subscribers, or, you know, never pass the 200 subscriber mark, as opposed to promote authors that held views that didn't align with my own. But obviously everybody's different, but for me personally, I think that everybody should be held to the same standard, and if we're all going to be held accountable for our actions, then we should all be treated the same regardless of size. Yes, I think that I do hold the booktubers that I watch to the same standard. I think that, you know, I wouldn't enjoy watching someone's content if I knew that they held no opinions that differed from mine, that opinions that were fundamentally wrong. Like, if you believe in different political views from me, fine, I can cope with that. If you believe, you know, that a certain group of people don't deserve the same human rights as me, then, like, absolutely not. There are certain things that could be negotiable, and certain things that are absolutely not. But I think that I do hold everybody to the same standard, because I wouldn't want to watch anybody's content if I knew that they held those views. I wouldn't want to give them my time or my clicks, you know. I wouldn't want to promote their channel. So absolutely. Luckily for me, I've never watched a booktuber who has held any of these opinions, so I have never had to call out or cancel anyone, but I certainly would. I think that we all know I am quite an opinionated person, and I have absolutely no qualms in standing up for myself or my beliefs. So I absolutely, if it was a booktuber, no matter how close they were, and I disagreed with their opinion, I'd certainly tell them. So there were two that jumped to my mind immediately. So first one is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. So I've spoken about this in the channel before. I actually got an ARC of this from NetGalley, and I just adored it. It was a 5-star read for me, and I ended up investing in the beautiful Illumicrate edition. Look at those gorgeous sprayed edges. Is it not just the brightest thing? But aye, it's a dark fantasy. It is a phenomenal read, and there is all kinds of amazing rep in this. So our main character is pansexual, which is great, because usually, you know, a fantasy author is trying to shoehorn in a wee bit of rep. It's never the main character, is it? It's always like some side character. No, the MC in this is pansexual, and she has romantic relationships in the book that display, you know, the fact that she is pan. There's also asexual representation in this book as well, which is something that I have rarely read. In fact, I can't think of another book where I actually have read asexual rep, so that's in here, as well as really cracking non-binary rep as well. A.M. Strickland has just created basically the world that we should be living in. No, everything needs to be labelled, you know, people can just be who they want to be. It's no like a big dramatic, you need to come out, you know, you're just living your best life and everybody's grand with it. So it's absolutely phenomenal. I'd recommend it to anybody who enjoys fantasy and anybody who's looking for any of the above rep mentioned. It is handled phenomenally, and it's not even like it is a huge part of the story. The characters are just themselves. You know, it's never like the MC's introduced to anybody and it's like, hello, I am Michael and I am asexual. You know, it's fed into the story and you get to know the characters, and so you get to know these things about them as opposed to it being, you know, revealed in some sort of a way. So it was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then next is a series of books, but I would recommend the Suki Stackhouse series by Charlene Harris. So they're just great books. These were other books that I read with my granny. Anything that Betty picks is just a great time. But Charlene Harris has written it across, God, I don't even remember how many books are in the series at this point, but quite a lot. And so you meet all different characters from all different walks of life, and the fact that it is written in Louisiana makes it a really interesting political climate, because obviously people have quite reserved opinions, I would say, and not everybody, some of them, but certainly some characters in this book. And so I think that just makes it even more interesting, because she creates almost an environment where her characters call these opinions out. And so that's really, really fun to read, and there's again a whole buttload of rep in this. It's just phenomenal. I would recommend the series to anybody, and obviously there are vampires in it, you know, so it's great. It's just a good time. So that has been my cancel culture tag. I hope you have enjoyed it and I've not just rambled nonsense at you for 20 minutes, and it actually makes a bit of sense. I think that this is probably something that's different for everybody, because some people can just totally separate an author's work from the author, and you know, it doesn't bother them at all. That is something that I struggle with, so I almost need to make a decision on whether I will boycott or cancel or whatever. So yes, I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a really interesting tag and a really interesting conversation to have. So like, props to Scott and Nell for putting this out there. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I've really enjoyed watching a load of other people's videos as well, and I think that we can all sort of agree, like it's quite a nuanced subject matter, and you know, usually I'm just sitting swearing and drinking gin, so it's been interesting to do something a bit more intellectual. I hope you're having a good day. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. So I really, really believe in positive consumerism. I think and like that. Bloody dog, man. You were really cute then. Yeah, so I absolutely believe in positive consumerism. I think that with consumerism being so rife in today's society, we have a real force for good in who we choose to spend our money with, whether it is an author or a company. So I really do believe in positive consumerism. I think that if I am boycotting an author, then I certainly won't buy any of their works again.
What's your view on positive consumerism, by the way?
Oh, I am quite a fat. And take 27.